So that speech, that Barnard speech, you tell a story in the speech about why you call it the wolf pack, about the story about reintroducing wolves into Yellowstone. So I want you to just say a little bit about that, but especially what I want to, people were so afraid to have the wolves reintroduced. They were afraid of the wolves. Mm-hmm. And you say to the Barnard girls, you make the connection, we are the wolves. People are afraid of women. Why?
Yeah. So this is in the late 90s, 95, and scientists started to look at Yellowstone and wonder what is going on in this ecosystem that is making it suffer. The riverbanks were eroding, the vegetation was completely overeaten, and they started to think about, okay, why are all these problems existing? So they decided we're going to do an experiment and we're going to reintroduce wolves back into this ecosystem. I'm super obsessed with this story. In fact, a year and a half ago, before the Barnard speech, I started coaching Tish's 11-year-old soccer team. She was 11 at the time. And I was like, we are the wolves. Okay. And I made them watch this video. It's the TED Talk. And it's amazing that I just felt so much similarities, right? So these wolves get reintroduced to this ecosystem, and you would think, and a lot of scientists thought that they were just gonna ravage the place, and things were just gonna, the ecosystem would get all out of whack again. But what ended up happening was that these wolves being reintroduced, because the vegetation was so overeaten, they displaced the deer. And the deer that displacement allowed the vegetation to grow back, right? And if you go down that road a little bit further, or down that river a little bit further, what ended up happening was that because of the vegetation starting to rise, then the riverbanks stopped eroding. They stopped collapsing so much. So then the fish and the otters and the birds started coming back because the entire thing started to change. So what once was feared to be a threat to the ecosystem, in fact, became the salvation. And this is when I said to the Barnard women, are you picking up what I'm laying down here? Because we essentially are the wolves. Our ecosystem looks different, but it's the same story. Women are so feared because I think intuitively, sorry for all the men in the room, there's a few, the camera guys.
They're good Omega men. We've trained them.
I think that we have to understand, whenever you enter into a fight, a competition, a game, whatever it is, you have to know what you're up against. You also have to think a little bit about what they think about you. And as it relates to wolves and women and men and power and how we can rebalance the scales, I think it's so important that we have to enter into this conversation knowing, not believing, but knowing. I know in my bones that women are the only thing that are going to fix the world. And it makes sense. It makes a lot of logical sense. And also, if you are a male that is toxic and is just solid and stoic in his toxic masculinity, I can understand why they think that thought is insane. I understand the feeling and the belief that they are insane. What do they think they're going to show up and feel their way through this mess? Right? That's their mentality. And they're like, that sounds crazy. And I understand that on some level, that it could look on paper because it's never been done. We have to show up and not just believe it, but know it. Know it in our bones, know it in our words, know it in our presence, know it in everything we attach ourselves to, in our names, in our families. Whatever we're doing, we have to know that when we enter into it, we are the salvation.